This week's parashat Acharei Kedoshim, at the start of Acharei, the very, very beginning, takes us back to the deaths of Aharon's two holy sons, Nadav and Avihu. Acharei Shnei bnei Aharon, after the deaths of his two holy sons, Nadav and Avihu. The parashat then is going to go on to speak about certain halachot of Yom Kippur that are learned out from Nadav and Avihu and what they did wrong, or we actually give in the past many interpretations. Was there a sin here? What was the sin over here? Was there just too much excitement? Was it just part of Hashem's bigger plan? Was it part of the head of the egel? Is it a punishment for Aharon? We've given many interpretations to what went wrong, or maybe what went right or too right, or why did Nadav and Avihu have to die? What was that all about? Especially as back in Parshat Shemini, Moshe Rabbeinu, when he gives Nechama to Aharon, he says these two are more holy than us. We thought that either you and me would be the one to ignite the mizbeach. Bekrovai Akadesh. We thought that HaKadosh Baruch Hu would light it up with the most holy ones. They must be the most holy ones, because we weren't the ones to die for the Korban. So based on that idea, I want to quote a Shla Kadosh. With some very deep mystical ideas. Be'ezat Hashem, Shla Kadosh wrote it down, quoting the Rama Mipano, and Be'ezat Hashem, hopefully we'll say it over correctly. This is just to give us a taste of some deeper ideas that are brought down. Be'ezat Hashem, hopefully we understand it properly. So says the Shla Kadosh, quoting the Asar Marot of the Rama Mipano. So this is really the Chidush of the Rama Mipano in two different places. I happen to be that the Shla Kadosh did a beautiful job of putting the two together and making a nice storyline of it. Says the Shla Kadosh as follows: Aharon be'atzmo hu ubanav hu krevu the korban. Okay, he says as follows: Aharon himself, as well as his sons, they were being offered up as a korban. They themselves, in part of the inauguration of the temple, part of the whole preparation to make Aharon and his sons the Kohanim, says the Rami Pano, they themselves were being offered up as a korban. Okay, deep idea. V'nitkayem adam ki yakriv mikem korban lashem mikem ubachem. And this way they can fulfill the pasuk. What says when a person has to bring a korban, it says adam ki yakriv mikem. A person should give literally of himself, from himself, a korban to Hashem. So he says mikem ubachem. Says the Shla Kadosh, says the Rami Pano. You're going to give yourself literally. Aharon and his sons were being brought up as a korban, so to speak, on this inauguration day, on this Yom HaShmini. B'zeu shenemar, vayakrev Moshe Aharon b'panav. And that's what it means when it says, and Moshe Rabbeinu brought them close. No, vayakrev, read it literally. He was offering up Aharon and his sons. And now says the Rabbi Pana says the Shla Kadosh, the way korbanot work is different parts, different stuff happens to different parts. So he says, Nadav and Avihu bisrefat nishmatam ke'ivarei ha'olah uke'imorei hatat. He says that Nadav and Avihu, they're the part that has to get burnt. Why are they the part of this? Because they're the part, when you have a korban olah, the whole thing is burnt for Hashem. When you have a korban hatat, when you have yourself a sin offering, interesting enough, the sin offering is brought for inadvertent sins. So even if you want to say there's a sin involving Nadav and Avihu, even if you want to say there's a sin involving Aharon and Kohen with the egel, all this is b'shogeg, all this is a korban hatat. They are like the olah that's being totally burnt to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. They are like the parts of the hatat that get burnt, and he has a keshe, mekesha, the karai, the tichlive, ahadade, but Hashem. He says, and we have a hekesh, we have the same language. We find it in the Torah by Nadav and Avihu, where the fire came out and took them up, and we also find it by the korban. He says by the korbanot of the olah and the hatat. If you go to the pasuk in the inauguration of the temple, it says that an esh came down, but it's esh milifnei Hashem v'tochal et ha'olah, and it came in and it swallowed up the olah. So this esh, when does Hashem bring out an esh? He brings it out twice. One to bring up the korban that's being offered to God, whether it's going to be the olah that's totally burnt to Hashem, or the hatat where a certain portion is burnt to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we find it also this esh milifnei Hashem by Nadav and Avihu, because the fire is coming to bring them up. They are the part of the korban, which now makes beautiful sense. Now, Moshe is telling Aharon, I thought we were going to be the part that's kulol Hashem. I thought we were going to be the one that's going to go totally to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we spoke in the past in the positive way of learning Nadav and Avihu. They went in their shtuya yain. They went in there drunk on wine, not drunk on wine, drunk on the yain, the yud the shiv'im panim Torah. They got drunk trying to get close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, make the biggest tikkunim. They were the most holy. They were the ones that got taken up. They were the kulol Hashem. And then he says, "Ve'elazar be'itamar k'shayrei muktashim," and hadichtiv hanotarim. And then after the deaths of Nadav and Avihu, so it says, "By deber Moshe el Aharon ve'el Elazar ve'el Itamar banav hanotarim." afterwards, Moshe Rabbeinu speaks to Aaron, Elazar, and Tamar to keep doing their job. They're called the notarim. They're the leftovers. They're the shayarei muktashim. They're the leftovers of the korbanot. That part of it you're going to eat. Part of it, the kohen gets part of it. Everybody gets different parts of the korban. And ultimately, if they become total notar, they have to get burnt as well. That's why Moshe Rabbeinu, I guess, is being mezarez them. You got to do the job properly in this. But they're the notarim. They're the ones that are not burnt on the mizbeach. Says the Shlach Kadosh, and who knows what this deep idea is of why they're being brought as a korban. Meaning, he's trying to learn mystically right now that they are the korban itself. And who knows what this is all about? Mistama, he says, probably hu inyan dvekut gadol shenidbeku lemala az. That maybe it's a great level of dvekut, of clinging to Hashem. Uparchan nishmatam uzorak kamo Yitzchak. And maybe it's like a level of Yitzchak that was going up. Now we know in the case of Yitzchak, he's being brought back down. According to the Midrashim, according to the Mekubalim, Yitzchak actually was sacrificed, and he went all the way up, and then Hashem brought him back down. Tchiyat HaMeitim. And in the case of Nadav and Avihu, we're not having a Tchiyat HaMeitim. We are going to have parts of the Neshama are going to come back. In the story of Pinchas and in other places, they're going to come back, but we don't have this full Tchiyat HaMeitim because their Neshama really were Davuk B'Hashem, and they went all the way up. V'chen katuv ba'Aharon, it says the Shlach Kadosh, so too we find by Aharon, Vayered ma'asot HaChatat. When Aharon brought the Korban of the Chatat, it says Vayered. Why does it say Vayered? Why is he going down? Similar to what it says by Yitzchak, where he's brought up as an Olah, and then you have to be brought down again. So Aharon was brought up, and Aharon and his remaining sons were brought up, and now they come back. They are back in this world. You have to know that this hakrava, this being brought up to Hashem, being willing to sacrifice for Hashem, that can only happen with free will. Meaning they had to make this choice themselves. That Aharon, his other sons, and Nadav and Avihu, they made this choice, and we see that Nadav and Avihu were the most holy because they were the ones that were accepted to be the Olah part, to go up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So he says, Aharon ikriv et atzmo, nimtza hu ha-korban, v'hu ha-makriv. And he says, based on this, Aharon is both the korban and the person bringing the korban. And the Shlach Kadosh is using that to answer a different question he had about how could they eat, how could they eat this korban? It was the korban of inauguration, the mincha. Okay, side ideas, ayen, the Shlach Kadosh over there. But he's basically saying, though, there's a much deeper lesson taking place over here of a great korban service of Aharon and all of his kids, with Nadav and Avihu being the ones to go fully up as the Olah part. So I actually opened up the Asara Mamarot that the Shlach Kadosh was quoting, and there was one more line in there that I think also gives us a deep understanding, which really relates to our parasha, which is going to go then into the laws of the Yom Kippur. We know that in Yom Kippur we're going to read the story of Nadav and Avihu. We're going to read that part of the parasha of Nadav and Avihu. There's even special piyutim, special songs that are sung in different traditions. I know in the Syrian tradition there's a beautiful song about the deaths of the Bnei Aharon, a very somber song, but we look to them for kapara. So says the Rama Mipano, V'amru, so we have the famous saying that by mentioning them on Yom Kippur, it's mechaper, it brings atonement, just like bringing korbanot. So now we understand why. Because they really were a korban. That this concept of the inauguration of the temple, and this concept of Aharon and his sons igniting it, there's a certain spark, says the Shlach Kadosh, that might be similar to Yitzchak. There's a certain level, like the Rami Pano was saying, of a korban. They themselves were like a korban chatat, a korban olah, whatever it is. Some kind of kapara is happening, and therefore now we're going to connect it to Yom Kippur to say, oh, there's a chut should be with us as well, to be a full kapara to Hashem. Shabbat Shalom.